Would you like to learn how to hit your forehand or backhand in a way that makes your opponent have to work harder, drives them crazy, all while giving you more margin where you don't make as many mistakes and you make more balls? It sounds too good to be true? Well, I'm going to show you how to do it in this video, so stay tuned. So you're probably thinking, what am I talking about? How is that possible to hit a ball that drives my opponent crazy? It gives me more opportunities, makes them work harder, and at the same time, I make more balls? Well, it's called using something called shape. Now, I want to distinguish the difference between shape and hitting the ball heavy. Shape is adding curve to the ball, so when the ball bounces, it does a couple things. It has a shorter time in your opponent's strike zone, and it tends to bounce and push your opponent back. Not because they have a lot of spin, but if you do add a lot of spin to it, that enhances the shape, versus a heavy ball, which is a ball that has spin and penetration. A heavy ball can be hit where it bounces like a ball with shape, or it can be hit through the court, and still, as it's going through the court, because it has so much spin, it bounces and it penetrates. It's difficult to hit a heavy ball unless you know how to really use your body and create a lot of racketed speed. Whereas a ball with shape, you don't actually have to create that much more racketed speed. It's just creating shape on the ball. And so we're gonna explain that and go through that in 1 second. Now let's go through some of those claims I made at the beginning of this video about like how and why would a ball with shape be more effective than a ball going through the court. I see this as one of the biggest mistakes a lot of recreational players are making, is that they're trying to get the ball to skim the net, to skim over the net. And what's happening when you're skimming the net, you have less margin, for one thing. Meaning that if you're off by a little bit, hence you're gonna make a mistake. And if you're off, let's say you do skim the net, you gotta hit it pretty firmly and drive through it a lot, because if not, it's gonna wind up short. And because it's just going over the net by just a little bit, when it bounces, guess what's gonna bounce? In your opponent's strike zone. This is such an important thing to understand. The difference between hitting the ball in your strike zone and out of your strike zone. Just think about this for a second. Where do you like to hit the ball? Whether it be a backhand or a forehand, most players like to hit the ball right around here. This is the sweet spot. I don't know that many players who like to hit the ball here, and I definitely don't know a lot of players who like to hit the ball here. This is what makes Nadal so successful. He has more spin on the ball, and he does hit a heavy ball, but with that heavy ball, he hits a ball with shape, meaning it curves over the net more, which means it bounces higher. And so the reason why I can say this makes you more consistent is because you're staying away from the net, and that's the #1 obstacle. The reason I can say it makes it harder for your opponent is because the ball, because it's going over the net a little higher and has a little bit of spin, doesn't have to have a lot, will bounce and bounce higher, staying out of your opponent's strike zone. The other thing is, unless your opponent can move their feet, time the ball really well, they have to work really hard to continuously get the ball in their strike zone. More than likely, your opponent's not gonna wanna move their feet that much consistently, and they're gonna go, you know what, I'm just gonna give up the court a little bit, I'm gonna move back, and I'm gonna probably have to lift the ball because they're gonna be further behind the court. And now there's one more really important reason why you should start hitting with more shape, and it's called access. And I mean access to the court. Most players do not realize that from the baseline, you don't have direct access to the court. But instead of me telling you, I'm gonna show you. And so we're gonna go to the iPhone cam, and I want you to listen to what I'm asking you. I'm gonna ask you a couple questions, and I want you to see what can you see. And the biggest thing is, because a lot of players, when I ask them this question, they look under the net. So I'm gonna ask you, what can you see looking over the net? And I'm gonna keep this camera running so you can see where I am in the court in relationship to what you can see. Right now, you can see the court, and hopefully you can see how I'm standing on the baseline right now. And I'm keeping the camera about eye height. So the question is, what can you see looking over the net? How much of the court can you see? If you look through it, you can't see any portion of the court. The blue portion of the court is under the net. And pretty much we have some green, so from here, if you hit the ball eye height, which I am right now, and you can see this, you have no direct access to the court. So if you're hitting the ball flat, you're probably going in the net. So you have to hit the ball up a little bit. So here's another reason why, since you don't have direct access, you need to hit the ball up to come down. Now let's go a little closer. Let's go mid-court, where you're gonna hit approach shot. What can you see looking over the net? Again, you can't even see the baseline. And this is eye height. Most of the time, if you're gonna get approach, you're gonna get it down here, not eye height. And I still can't hit directly in the court. Hence why, if you get a low ball here, you wanna make sure you have a lot of shape, a lot of spin to bring the ball down to the court. Now, let's see where, I'm gonna keep going. Oh, this is the first little sliver of blue that we can see. And look where I am. I'm over the surface line. And if I hit eye height, I have a little bitty sliver of court to hit into. So even here, but guess what? If I were to hit the ball lower, look what happens. This is probably about, I would say, waist high almost. I'll go a little bit lower, but that's about waist high. We still don't have direct access to the court. Sorry for the fingers. And then now look up here. Now I'm almost, maybe 6-7 feet away from the net, and now I have direct access from the court. So if I wanted to hit a forehand from here or a ground stroke, if the ball bounced, I would now have direct access. Now, obviously if the ball bounces higher, that means something different. So now hopefully you understand how if you're just hitting the ball flat from the baseline, you're taking a lot of risk for nothing. Basically, you're hitting the ball in your opponent's strike zone, giving them a ball they like, compared to hitting shape. Now let's talk about hitting shape. How do we hit shape? Shape is just a ball that goes up and then comes down. You can hit it with a lot of topspin if you have that capability or that effect of hitting topspin. If you don't, make sure you go check out a video that's gonna pop up somewhere around here in the cards that'll talk to you or show you how to hit with more topspin. Watch that after the video. Now, let's talk about what we need to do. To hit a ball that has shape, we have to just understand a couple things, which is the racket face and the racket path. We want the racket face to be slightly open or open enough to get or achieve the height we want. Now, hitting with shape isn't like pushing the ball or hitting a lobby ball, although those balls have a ton of shape, hence they're lobby, but it's not necessarily the effect I want. A ball with shape is something you can use to rally with, okay? So all we want to do is make sure we're coming from low to high, up to the ball with the racket face slightly open. And if we can do this, we achieve a ball with shape. I played so many players that hit the ball hard and short, and I'm like, that really doesn't affect me unless they hit the ball really hard. But then I play players with shape and don't hit the ball hard, and I have to work so much harder. So what I want you to do is get on the ball machine and notice the difference. When the ball comes, I'm gonna make sure I'm getting under and hitting the ball up. The first couple balls, I'm just gonna hit normal, kind of driving through the court with not a lot of shape. So ball's coming, I'm driving through the court. So you can see, just hitting straight through the court, I have to hit it harder to get it deeper. And so this ball, I'm taking more risk compared to this ball with shape. That is very hard to hit. And I don't even have to hit it that high, but that ball is very deep. I don't have to work that hard. And notice how high the ball is bouncing. Oh, that one got away from me. Notice how high the ball is bouncing when it bounces on the other side. It makes my opponent really have to work hard. The other added benefit of hitting with more shape is it's more forgiving. And what I mean by more forgiving is if I hit the ball a little bit short, because of the bounce, it's gonna still bounce high. If you really watch the pros when they're hitting the ball with shape, sometimes they hit a short ball, but the other opponent can't attack because they have to read it so quick and the ball's gonna bounce up. And so if you don't read it, you might as well just sit back and take it and let it come back down to your strike zone. Because if you don't get up there soon enough, you're gonna run into a ball that's not in your strike zone. So again, that's a shape ball. And the way I'm getting it is simply by making sure that the racket face is slightly open. Now, what I mean by the racket face being slightly open is that at contact, my racket face probably is gonna be a little bit more open versus closed. If it's closed, the racket ball is gonna go lower. And so you wanna start measuring which one you need more to get the right ball you want. So as the ball comes out, I'll start off with the racket face ideally at vertical and coming up on the ball. Let's see what happens. So this is vertical, and so you can see how low it goes from that. Now I'm gonna slowly open the racket face. Ooh, that was a lot of open. I don't wanna open it anymore because you see how this ball is a nightmare. Now, the other thing about shape is you can use shape to slow the point down. If your opponent's hitting a really good shot, you can hit a ball like that, which buys you more time. It puts the points in your control where you're not having to rush if you don't want to. And this is why shape is so important. But before you can focus on shape, you need to make sure you have the racket face right. And the way you can do that is by watching this video, because it goes deeper into understanding how to connect those two up. And then by adding shape to your forehand, you're gonna drive your opponents crazy. Good luck.